the way that wisdom is passed on among the educated elites is through heavy tomes and big books and philosophy courses and things like that. And if you want to partake in that, you should definitely sign up for the Trivium. However, for the rest of us, for us ignoramuses, wisdom is passed on through two forms: proverbs and fairy tales. And fairy tales are extremely important because they form the minds of the young and they help them set correct expectations for life. Fairy tales are fantastic because they are ridiculously based. And I'm of the view that Little Red Riding Hood is actually a philosophy book disguised as a children's tale that is intended to explain to you how do you deal with degeneracy and why is degeneracy bad. Okay, now let's explain.
Oh, we're gonna go for this.
Yeah. This is
it's being called the Big Bad Wolf, and
this is the Big Bad Wolf.
Yeah.
So let's sort of see how it starts. Little Red Riding Hood is loved by everybody. Her grandma absolutely adores her. Her parents take good care of her. They give her everything that she needs. She's a happy child. She's well taken care of. Society functions as it should. And the father is a woodsman. In some versions, a huntsman. And this is important because this is a man who passes between the settled village life of the civilized urban people and the savage life of somebody who is in the woods. So he's capable of acting both in a highly civilized context, but also in conflict and in war and in taming nature. This is the setting. Little Red Riding Hood then goes off to take care of her grandmother and deliver some things to her. Bread and wine are the traditional items there, very Christian, very symbolic. And on the way, she meets the Big Bad Wolf. The wolf is dressed very well. His looks are very deceptive. And Little Red Riding Hood is absolutely innocent. It is literally the innocence of children.
Is it just me though, Carl? But isn't he dressed exactly like Farage? I mean, he's got that green jacket in there, and the way that he's holding his hands
Farage
up
doesn't tend to wear a waistcoat. That's the only.
That's.
If you look closely, there's a fork. If you look closely, there's a fork and knife sitting in the breast pocket.
Oh,
you know,
I missed that one.
So this is an innocent child. She doesn't know, she's never seen a wolf before. She doesn't know what it is. She just thinks that this is a large dog. So she engages with him in conversation. And there's a lesson there. Don't even interact with evil. Yeah. Don't even entertain it. Stop it from the beginning. The story continues, of course, and you know how it goes. Where are you going? I'm going to my grandmother's house. What does that mean? It's tradition. The house stands under 3 oak trees. So it represents the past, it represents the eternal, it represents the little cottage in the middle of the woods, the bud of civilization, the grain of civilization. That's what it is. It's not in a town, it's not fully civilized. She's not living in a tent or a cave either. It's a house in the woods under the shadow of tradition, 3 giant oak trees.
And also, because it's the grandchild and the grandmother, we've got the linkage between generations.
Precisely.
This is the tradition that moves through time and space.
Precisely. And you are walking on that path between modernity and tradition, back and forth all the time. And the trick is to stay on the right path. And what does the wolf think? Well, I could eat both the grandmother and the child. So how am I going to do this? I will tempt the child. You should enjoy yourself. You should walk around in the woods. You should explore. You shouldn't stay on the straight and narrow path. That's for wimps and weaklings. You should express your strong identity. You should be yourself and celebrate yourself as a young woman. Go and pick flowers and play in the sunlight and have a good time.
Yeah.
So this is the temptation of the wolf or the serpent, essentially.
Yeah, I can see that the tree of life, the serpent's now giving the idea, eat the apple.
Exactly.
Eat the apple.
Exactly.
Go and have a go.
Exactly. Go for temptation. Enjoy the temptation. Have fun.
Yeah. What could possibly go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong indeed?
Have the pill. Take the pill.
And so Little Red Riding Hood does this, and she goes off the path, and she's going around picking flowers, having fun, enjoying the sunlight. This is a comment on the nature of degeneracy. Listen to this sentence. It's beautiful. When she had gathered so many flowers that her arms were full, she began to think again of her grandmother, tradition, lying ill in bed, how to save society. So you have to think here of these, God help them, these women who are going around exploring how many men they can bed in a single day. This is what this comment is absolutely beautiful. When she'd gathered so many flowers that her arms were full, when she's basically explored the limits of degeneracy, when she's gone to the furthest extremes, and still found no satisfaction, because flowers by their nature, when you pick them, are dead things, and they will always fail to satisfy you. What did she think? Her grandmother, and her grandmother being sick, and how do I get back to the path?
Interesting on a sort of slightly more like grounded level is the self-interestedness of this. You're meant to be taking something to your grandmother who because she's ill, she can't get it for herself. But instead you've been indulging yourself in a very, selfish way.
Exactly. She returned to the path and went on her way. So she tried to put the whole past behind her.
Yeah, this is a redemption element.
Exactly.
It's like the redemption movie. I used to be a drug addict. Now I've been able to go out and I'm going to kill the drug addicts.
Precisely.
Sorry, drug dealers.
This is her trying to save herself from her past. The online right likes to comment on the slut to tradwife chain. That's actually what it's expressing, but in a way that is fit for children.
The issue isn't. It is what happens in the interceding time, right? Because if I recall the story of Little Red Riding Hood well, the time she spends not traveling to her grandmother's house allows something terrible to happen to the grandmother. Does it
Precisely. And so by the time she gets to her grandmother's house, the grandmother's gone. She's already been eaten by the wolf. The wolf is dressed up in the clothing of tradition. He's trying to tell you what your own country's tradition is. This is the same as saying Britain was always diverse.
Yes.
This is the same as saying it was always such. What are you talking about? Nothing has changed.
Britain was built by diversity, we've heard.
Britain was built by diversity. That's the wolf dressed up as the grandmother, telling you what you're meant to think and lying to you about tradition. And then you start to notice, what are these big eyes? What are these big ears? What's this big mouth? Well, I'm going to eat you now. By the time you notice, it's too late. By the time you notice, it's too late. You should always... This is why prejudice is actually a virtue. This is why prejudice is a virtue. Because prejudice allows you to think, well, people in the past have tried this.
Yes.
And it's led them on a one-way road to hell.
So I'm actually, for my next Islander article, I've actually written about this because I think Burke makes a really persuasive defense of prejudice, actually, saying, look, this is the iterative trial and error of centuries that actually you can't rationally explain why this is the case, but you realize there's probably something out of this.
You're going to love the master.
Well, yeah.
You're going to love the master.
Continue.
Yeah. So we see that by the time you've decided to experiment with things on your own and try to do things your own way, the wolf's stolen your grandmother's clothes and is pretending to be your grandmother. And then the wolf gets lazy. He's consumed the past, he's consumed the future. He's snoring so loudly that the chimney begins to shake. And that's when men notice. When evil has become so comfortable and so entrenched that only then does the woodsman come in. He's heard an awful noise coming from the house of grandmother. He wonders what it is. He goes in and he finds the wolf there. And the man says, I'm going to kill you straight away. Even worse, you wicked creature, I have long wanted to get my hands on you. Sorry, I have these committed to memory practice. I've read them that many times. And he swings his axe and he kills the wolf straight away. He thinks he's saving tradition. He's doing this to save grandmother. He's literally trad. That's what he is.
Yeah.
But by killing the wolf, what he saves first is actually Little Red Riding Hood.
Yeah.
And then the trad man who is between civilization and the wilderness and is therefore capable of extreme violence when necessary and capable of being a civilized man when necessary, he saves his daughter and together they try to take care of grandmother and save tradition. And that's how tradition is actually saved. So this is this is the beauty of it, and
It's a strong message for saying that you can be good, you can be kind, but you must always be able to use your hands and be violent when it's necessary to protect the interests of you, your family, and those around you.
the harmless man is harmful.
Yeah.
The harmless man is a destructive force. That's what it is. And then Little Red Riding Hood goes back on the path and promises her mother, as long as I live, I shall never again leave the forest path when you have warned me not to do so.
And that's a very Christian line.
And that's
Without
a very
doubt.
Christian line.
Very Christian line.
Very thoroughly Christian line.
Yeah.
Stay on the right path.
Yeah.
Instead of, let's experiment with this, let's try that, etc., etc.
Well, you know where it ends up. You end up in the wolf's belly.
You end up in the wolf's belly.
And violence is required to extract you from it.
Yeah.
And only violence can save you from the wolf's belly. And this is something that you want to keep in mind in terms of analyzing the world that you see around you today. You know, that things have got, exactly as we saw with the French riots, the level of tolerance to endless rioting is only going to end when there is extreme violence used to terminate the rioting.
But we have this philosophy. We understand these in conceptual ideas. You talked about some of the philosophers we read. Those who go to Oxford and Cambridge, the Sorbonne, Harvard, Yale, are reading those materials as well.
Yes.
But they're taking a very different message from it. Their message is more of the tolerance, because they've already drifted off the path. They've always wanted to experiment with all the things that don't work in life. We know that are bad. And then they justify their actions to themselves. And in doing so, they think everybody else should be able to do that as well.
So the purpose of their philosophy is to allow you to live in the woods and pick the flowers forever.
Exactly.
But that's not how a human life works.
No.
And this is something that a lot of millennials are realizing is, I'm getting older and I don't have any of those things that lead me to grandmother's house.
Yes.
I don't have a family. I don't have a wife. I don't have children. I don't have a plan for the future.
Yep.
And no, you don't. You were picking the flowers well into your late 30s, early 40s. Now what?
Yeah.
Yep.
What's your plan? And
it's a very good message for men to turn around and say, don't do that. I mean, if you are doing, finish it very quickly, is what my grandmother used to say. Go out, go and enjoy yourself, but come back and deal with it very, very quickly, and get married younger. Get a family, get a responsibility behind you. Get out of the house, do something. And if the women are not willing to stick along with you at that particular journey, leave them.
Yes.
Because then you get the sorts of women on the front page of the Guardian and the Independent this week that had 5 women all in their late 40s and 50s saying, I'm financially successful, I'm gorgeous, I'm this, but there's no men out there for me.
you're in the woods. You didn't go to grandmother's house. What do you want?
Exactly.
Well, that's right.
Exactly.
You made the choice. You listened to the wolf.
And then
That was stupid, wasn't it?
Yeah, and you've listened to a limited number of men that are left capable for what you want.
Yeah.
And they can pick and choose whoever they want.
And they can choose women 10 years younger than you, so get lost.
Yeah. It's really tragic what's been taught to the young generation.
Oh, yeah.
So I wanted to pick on a couple of other fairy tales that really focus on feminine virtue and how feminine virtue is different from male virtue. Beauty and the Beast. Classic, everybody knows it, everybody loves it. The youngest daughter was the prettiest, but she was, when her father faced misfortune and lost all of his money, she was absolutely pleasant about it. She decided that she was going to take care of the little house in the country, even though they didn't have the city and the big parties and the fun that they used to have. She's going to cook, she's going to clean, she's going to take full responsibility for all of the feminine chores in the house, even though her sisters refused to do it. So she took the burden on herself. She picked up her cross.
Yes.
That was her cross. She decided to carry it. She decided to do what was required of her. The merchant goes off on business. He gets lost. He finds himself in a palace. He doesn't know anything about the palace. But it's clear that the person who controls the palace is extremely capable. First, he has a palace.
Yep.
Second, the man walks in and he finds a full dinner. Then he wants to go to bed and he finds a perfectly set and very tidy bedroom. So there's someone there who knows what he's doing. Except that this someone is literally a beast. The father tries to go and pick a white rose because that's what his daughter had asked him for. Beauty, the youngest, asked for a white rose. The other two asked for pearls and diamonds. They wanted extravagance. She just wanted a white rose. That's
More likely to get what they asked for.
Yeah.
And so,
just a quick side. This is a lesson I learned when I was a kid, right? So every year I'd be like, Dad, can I get a Transformers toy or whatever? And my sister would be like, can I get a pony? Well, who got what they wanted? I learned this very early in life. Be reasonable.
so basically,
You'd woke up in the morning and you heard hooves and your sister thought next door. Then that would have been a shock.
that would have really shocked you.
I was pretty convinced it was never going to happen, though, and it didn't. So,
So this guy is literally a beast. He finds the merchant trying to pick just one rose, and he decides that he's going to kill him there and then. And the only thing that saves him is the law of surprise. The first thing that you encounter when you get back home, you have to give it to me. If it's the dog, I'll take it. But if it's your daughter, I'll also take her.
Yeah.
And it turns out to be exactly his daughter. But, and this is really the clincher here, Beauty insisted that once a promise was made, it should be kept. Her father didn't want to take her to the beast, obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously. But she insists that no, promises must be kept, commitments must be seen through. You don't get to quit halfway, even if you've committed to something inconvenient. And this is the essence of feminine virtue, commitment. And it's emphasized here in an absolutely staggering way. And then she gets to know Beast, and she gets to love him and so on, but she refuses to marry him because he's a beast. He's hideous. The story goes on, and I won't bore you with all of the details, but then she also follows through with her commitment one more time after having flaked for a little while, for a good reason, to take care of her father, because she has different priorities and she's trying to satisfy them both, so fair to her. But then she goes and finds the beast and he's dying, and she says, all right, I will marry you. And there's no beast anymore. It's a prince. So feminine faithfulness, feminine ability to give, literally transforms a beast to a prince. And you see the same theme expressed in The Princess and the Frog.
You see the same theme in memes that go around of the wild young man with a woman, and just over time how he becomes much more civilized.
Yes.
And this is definitely true.
I think that's the point about the responsibility.
Yes.
That we can be wild. We want to go off and do, sow your oats when you're younger because maybe genetically that's what we're supposed to do.
Yep.
You want to go wild with the lads because, we used to go out and fight and kill people, and now we just went to the pub. Perhaps you do an odd riot in Paris every now and again, just on a casual Saturday afternoon. But then, as you meet the right woman and they teach you, they're teaching you about responsibility and what happens with children. But that also should be taught to you from your parents as well. And it's clear in this case, where the Beauty and the Beast, the Beauty has already been given that education from her father about responsibility, the importance of having a family and that long line of telling you what you should or shouldn't do, and why you should also listen to your parents most of the time, not all the time.
No, but you're absolutely right. This is a great example of how a feminine virtue can create the world that she wants. As well. Because women, of course, view their husbands as a project. Darling, I'll take the bins out tonight. She wants you to become a different kind of man when she meets you, whereas men are the other way. You never want your wife to change.
That's pretty true.
It's totally true.
Yeah, that's true.
And so it's very interesting how that's the case.
Yep. And then another little piece on female virtue. This is The Wolf and the Seven Little Kids. The story is about, so this sort of, the first couple of lines in this explain the nature of tyranny. There's a goat. She takes care of her kids. Her one fear is that the wolf might catch them. She isn't safe. There are wolves prowling around. That means that there aren't men killing wolves. That's the hidden implication here. And she has to deal with this reality. Why are there wolves
prowling around?
Exactly.
Why are there migrants running around the streets spitting on women at the moment?
Yes.
Why
are there rape gangs?
Where are the men killing the wolves?
Exactly. So she finds herself in this dilemma. What is she going to do about it? Well, let's see how the wolf succeeds first. She explains to her kids that, look, the wolf's voice is different from mine and his appearance is different, so don't trust whatever you hear. And so the wolf tries to change. He firstly swallows chalk so that he gets a softer voice. Don't try this at home. No. Then he goes to the baker, and the baker is afraid, and he helps the wolf knowingly. And he goes and he gets.
Wow, that sounds
a
a lot like a government or two I can think of.
There you go.
Jesus Christ.
There you go. And then he goes to the miller. And the miller says the wolf wants to deceive someone, so he refused to help him. And then the wolf said, if you don't help me, I'm going to eat you. And the miller complies.
I mean, I'm just hearing Sir Lindsay Hoyle saying, I just don't want anyone else getting stabbed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's all I'm hearing from this.
Exactly. These are cowards who are in power, and the cowards who are in power empower wolves. Yes. That's what they're doing. It's very obvious.
It's going back to Paris. We've got
It's-
Macron in power, and we're empowering those to go out across the streets and just destroy Paris.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
because I'm too afraid.
Because they're too afraid.
Because they won't let the men deal with the wolves.
Because they won't allow the men to deal with the wolves,
Yeah.
and the men allow themselves to be turned into sheep instead. So the wolf manages to get in. He eats 6 out of the 7 kids, and then the mother and the last surviving kid, they go around and they see the wolf, and again, the nature of evil. It's complacent.
Mm-hmm.
He's asleep. He's snoring under the tree so loudly that the tree is shaking. It's complete complacency, just as we see with Keir Starmer tolerating the incompetence of his own government. That's what we're seeing here. And so what does she do? She doesn't confront the wolf head on.
No.
She sends the kid back home to get scissors and thread. And then she slowly cuts open the wolf's belly while he's still asleep and saves all of her kids and stuffs his belly with rocks. And then the wolf goes to get a drink of water and he falls in the well and he dies. And good is celebrated by everybody around them. The wolf is dead. No longer did the mother goat need to be afraid to leave her kids alone when she went to the forest.
It's not good, though, that she has to do it via subversion.
But that's
That's the only option left open
her
to her,
only
right?
option.
Well, it is. Once tyranny has taken control, and as we're finding now, as our freedom of speech is being removed,
Yep.
then you've got to try and find ways. You have to box clever to be able to get around those particular rules, and they're becoming now more narrow each day.
Exactly.
And so by us having to, in a way, subvert our own natural instincts of being fair and good and kind, we
Yeah.
actually have to find ways around it.
Yep.
And that's what we've done. It is so in new media that we're doing now. We've had to subvert the classic mainstream media, who are
And-
holding on the message that evil is fine as long as you ignore it, but will enable it, and you keep quiet and just accept it.
Yep. And it's permanent, you know. You're constantly terrified of being banned. You're constantly terrified of being demonetized. You're constantly terrified of being cancelled.
Yep.
They're always trying to find a way to get you over anything.
Yep.
And that's the nature of tyranny.
Yep.
You can't leave vulnerable things on their own and know that they'll be safe.
I'm just waiting for the moment, I hope, when we get actually some form of tyranny, actually his moment of sleep, so we can go and indeed cut it open and release freedom and decency.
Maybe.
It's the belly of that.
But alternatively, there's always the axe, you know? But this is... the beauty of these stories, I went a bit berserk and I literally bought 200 of the little 200 of these Ladybird fairy tales.
Yeah.
Because I thought they're going to get banned one day. Why not have my own collection at home?
Well, I do have a few of them. I was looking at one of them going, I recognize that,
Yeah.
to be honest, for my daughter.
And then you look at the art itself. Each of these scenes is beautiful. Each of these paintings is actually gorgeous. And then you look at something garbage like Peppa Pig. And everything is copy-pasted. It's ugly. The messages are stupid. Be polite, and you can become a doctor. And what does the doctor in Peppa Pig do? She flies in her doctor's airplane, and she turns over a lizard that had gotten stuck on her back. That's the extent of, like, email jobs for everyone. That's what it is. Meaninglessness for everyone. Enjoy it.
I've pushed Peppa Pig out of my memory a long time ago.
Ah, man, no.
we were tortured as parents, with parents with that.
I've banned it.
My
from the house.
wife-
It's not allowed anymore.
My wife despises Peppa Pig.
Oh,
I'm actually fairly ambivalent towards it because I've never really watched it.
You should hate it with a passion.
Yeah.
You should hate it with a passion.
My wife.
It's uncreative. It's demeaning. It lowers your intellect. It makes
You've
you
been
dumber.
forced never to go to Peppa Pig World. You have been.
No, I have actually
Oh,
been
well, there
to
you
Peppa
go.
Pig World, actually. Unfortunately.
My children don't know that it exists. and I'm keeping it that way. And if
Call it-
any of you spills the beans,
No, we'll just call it the Big Bad Wolf world. Big Bad Wolf.
very good,
You don't
very
wanna
good,
go there.
very good. You don't want to go there. But this is the heritage of these fairy tales. These are the lessons behind them. They're eternal stories of wisdom. They teach you something eternal. And the genius of them is that they are coded for every age. They're coded for every age. You read them as a child, you learn, I'm going to stick to the path. You learn how to deal with wolves. You read them as an adult, you explain why, you understand why they were read to you in the first place. So there's something there. And replacing them with this garbage is just purely destructive.
It's the perennial issue of stripping away a plan for your life.
Yeah.
Because like this is something I've really realized that just young people just have not. They don't. And it was even in my day when I was young. There was never think about what's going to happen later on in your life. Think about where you're going, where you're going to end up. And there was this attitude of the here and now is the only thing that is important.
Yes.
So just think about now. That's it. Just go play in the woods and collect flowers. The point of the fairy tales is to tell you, there is every life is a story.
Yes.
And you're going to get to the conclusion of the story at some point. So which conclusion do you want it to be?
First impression that I had when I got to Britain and started socializing with people was the number of people considerably older than I was at the time, in their 30s and 40s, who lived with the only objective of remaining 21 forever.
Yeah. Precisely.
Who wanted to just enjoy the things that were... And I admit, I indulged in some of that as well. I didn't live as good a life as I could have.
It took me a long time to fall out of that.
I'm the same. I lived in London. I worked in London. I had to leave London to actually become myself again.
Yep.
I had to understand that there is not the hedonism and the Sodom and Gomorrah of London and what it's all about. It can be very positive if you're looking at the cultural aspects about it that are still there, going to the museums. But that's not what London. That's not why most people are in London.
No.
It's like
It's to be narcissistic.
Pleasure Island in Pinocchio.
Yeah. Yep.
You can see it's the sort of thing that turns you into a jackass.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the point of it.
Exactly. So,
That was excellent.
fairy tales.
Yeah. We've been complaining about what appears to be the intentional degradation of our educational system for years now. If you went through the state school system in the UK, as I did, you will know exactly what I mean. Just listen to the Man in the Street interviews from the 1960s compared to those done now, and it is crystal clear that those people then have something that we don't have now. Put simply, we're being dumbed down by the powers that be on purpose, but we don't have to accept this perpetual lowering of standards. We are still a free people, and it's time to do something about it. This is why we have created courses.lotuseaters.com, a platform on which we are now offering courses which are tailor-made to reconstruct the education that has been denied to us. The first course we have available is Dr. Nima Parvini's Excellent Trivium, a tripartite course consisting of logic, grammar, and rhetoric, which is the foundation and backbone of a classical education. This course will make you a better writer, speaker, and thinker, and it used to be that every 12-year-old in the country would take it. Personally, I will be doing this course with my own children to ensure they get the benefits of it for their whole lives, but it's never too late to do it, and I really think you should. We will also be producing many other courses in the future on subjects which are not topics of idle interest, but which instead will level you up as a person and make you more effective in the real world. I want to be clear, these are not YouTube videos. They are university-level lectures and coursework with a test at the end to which you will have to apply yourself. In these, we are not offering you an easy life. We are offering you the foundations of what you will need to be a part of the ascent of our civilization out of the hole that was dug for us. They are not easy, but they are rewarding. They are an investment in yourself that will provide you with skills that you will use for the rest of your life. Courses.lotuseaters.com. We will see you there.